Hello everyone and welcome to my channel, The A Tourist. Here we learn English with joy. Now, today in this video, we are going to learn the structure of sentences, one of the most important topics in English grammar. Let's see what are the topics for us to discuss today. First, here we are going to see what is a sentence. Next, what are the types of sentences functionally and constructionally. Next, we are going to learn how to pick out the word groups in a sentence used as a single unit. Next, we are going to learn what is a phrase and what are its types. Then, we are going to see what is a clause and what are its types. And finally, we will see how to analyze a sentence. Now, let's start with our first topic. The topic is what is a sentence? See. Note the examples given below. Number 1, I go to school every day. Number 2, he plays cricket. Now see, in example number 1, the subject is I and the predicate is go to school every day. And in example 2, the subject is he and plays cricket. This section is the predicate of the sentence. Have a look at the definition. So, a sentence is a group of words that contains at least one subject and one predicate, and it makes a complete sense. Now, note, in some cases, the subject or the predicate in a sentence may be implied or understood and not expressed. Still, they are complete sentences. For example, good morning. Example 2, nonsense. Example 3, well done. Note, in all these sentences, the subjects are missing. Now see, the example 1 is an abbreviated form of the complete sentence, and the complete sentence is I bid you a good morning. Now example 2, the complete form is it is nonsense, and in example 3, the complete form is it is well done. Now let's see what are the types of a sentence. See, there are different types of sentences according to their functions and construction. According to function, there are 5 types of sentences. Number 1, assertive. See the example, the sun rises in the east. Number 2, the interrogative. See, there are 2 types of interrogative sentences. One is a simple question and the other is a WH question. See the examples. Will you come tomorrow? This is an example of a simple question. And what is your name? This example is a WH question. Now the imperative sentence. See the examples. Do it now, please sit down, obey your elders. So, these types of sentences express the orders, requests and advices, etc. Now comes the optative sentence. See the examples. May you be happy, wish you a good luck. And finally, the exclamatory sentence. See the examples. Hoorah, our school has won the match. Alas, I am ruined. And the final example is how happy I am. According to construction, the sentences are of 3 types. Number 1, a simple sentence. See the examples. Man is mortal. He teaches us English. Number 2, the compound sentence. See the examples. I am weak, but I can walk. Next example, I went there and I saw him playing. Now the final one, the complex sentence. See the examples. I know when he will come. And the next example is, this is the boy who helped me. Now we are going to see what is a word group and how to identify it in a sentence. Note, to learn the structure of sentences better, we need to learn how to identify a word group used as a single unit in a sentence. Now let's see what these are. Note the example, I have a beautiful red car. See, in this sentence, the expression a beautiful red car is a group of 4 words which is used as a single unit, that is the object to the verb have. And we know that the objects are noun equivalents. Now note this example 2. I have a car which is red. Now note, here the expression which is red is a group of 3 words which is used as a single unit, that is the adjective to the noun a car. Now note example 3. Mr. Das is poor but he is happy. Note, there are 2 word groups in this sentence. Number 1, Mr. Das is poor. Number 2, he is happy. Both of them have the features of a complete sentence, that is subject, verb and object or complement construction. So we can say that here two independent sentences are just brought together with the help of a linker. But now move on to our next topic. Here we are going to see what is a phrase and what are its types. Note the examples. He hoped to win the prize. Example 2. The boys in the gallery couldn't hear. Example 3. He returned at sunset. Now note, in the examples, the underlined expressions are called phrases. Now note their features. Feature 1. A phrase is a group of words which is used as a single unit in a sentence. Feature 2. It does not make a complete sense. Feature 3. It has no finite verb in it. And finally, it acts like a single part of speech. Now note, in example 1, the expression to win a prize is used as a noun because it is the object to the verb hoped. In example 2, the expression in the gallery is used here as an adjective because it describes the noun, the boys. In example 3, the expression at sunset is used here as an adverb because it states the time of the action denoted by the verb returned. Now let's see how many types of phrases are there. Phrases are of 6 types. Noun phrase. It does the work of a noun. Note the example. To get success is my dream. Example 2. I like to play cricket. In example 1, we can see the expression to get success is the subject to the verb is. And in example 2, the expression to play cricket is the object to the verb like. So, these are nouns in their functions. Next comes the adjective phrase. It does the work of an adjective. Now note the examples. He lives in a house made of stone. Now note in this example, the expression made of stone is used to describe the noun, a house. So, it acts like an adjective. In example 2, Netaji was a man of iron will. Here the expression of iron will is used to describe the noun, a man. So, it works as an adjective. Now comes the adverbial phrase. It does the work of an adverb. Note the examples. He worked with care. Example 2. He will come before very long. Now see, the expression with care expresses the way how he worked. In example 2, the expression before very long expresses the time of action. Number 4 is prepositional phrase. It does the work of a preposition. Note the examples. He stood in front of me. Example 2. He couldn't come on account of illness. In example 1, the expression in front of me works as a single preposition, that is before. And in example 2, the expression on account of works as a single preposition, for. Now comes the conjunctional phrase. It does the work of a conjunction. Note the examples. Example 1, come as soon as you can. Now see, in example 2, no sooner had he left the place than the fire broke out. Here the expression no sooner than works as a conjunction. And finally comes the type interjectional phrase. It does the work of an interjection. Note the examples. What a pity he failed. Example 2, by God, I didn't do it. Example 1, the expression what a pity expresses a sudden emotion, and in example 2, the expression by God expresses a sudden emotion. Now note, this is all about the phrases. Now consult a good book on grammar for some exercises on this topic. Now move on to the next topic, the clause. What is a clause and what are its types? Let's see what is the definition of a clause. A clause is a group of words that forms the part of a sentence and it has its own subject and a predicate. Now note the examples. I know what he did. In this example, the expression I know is clause 1 and the expression that he did is clause 2. Now see, the clause 1 has its own subject I and the verb know, and clause 2 has its own subject he and the verb is did and its object is it. Now example 2, he says that he will go. Here the clause 1 is he says and clause 2 is that he will go. Now let's see how to determine the clauses in a sentence. Have a look at the example. Example 1, I know that he did it. Take the notes. First, identify the finite verb in the sentence. In this sentence, there are two finite verbs. One is know and the other is did. That means the sentence has two clauses in it. Now identify each word and word group in the sentence here. The subject is I, the verb is know, and the object is that he did it. Now this is the word group that works as a single unit. In this sentence, it works as the subject to the verb know. Now see, this word group has a subject and a finite verb in it, so it is a clause. Now take the rest of the sentence. See, I know. Note, it is a group of words. It has a subject and a finite verb. It forms the part of a sentence, so this is another clause. Now take some more examples. Example 2. The boy who is in red shirt is my brother. Now note, this sentence has two finite verbs in it. One is and the other is. There are two finite verbs in it. That means it has two clauses. Now identify each word and word groups in the sentence. See, the subject is the boy. Its verb is and its complement is my brother. Now we can say so far this has the complete structure of a sentence, that is the subject, verb and object or complement. And it makes the part of a sentence, so no doubt it is a clause. Now take the other word group, who is in red shirt. This word group has a complete sentence structure, the subject, verb and object or complement structure. Here it works as a single unit, and adjective to the noun, the boy. It makes the part of a sentence, it is a clause. Now take the next example, I have a car and it is beautiful. Now see, this sentence has two finite verbs, have and is, so the sentence has two clauses, no doubt. Note, in first case, if the subject is I, the verb is have and the object is a car. And in the next case, the subject is it, the verb is and its complement is beautiful. See, these word groups have a complete sentence structure and they make parts of a complete sentence, so both of them are clauses. Now note, so far you have learned how to identify clauses in a sentence. Now let's see their types. Basically, there are three types of clauses. One is principal clause, the other is subordinate clause, and the third is a coordinate clause. Now let's see what a principal clause is. A clause in a sentence that has a complete meaning on its own. It does not depend on any other clause for completeness. For example, I think that you have made a mistake. In this sentence, the clause I think is principal clause because it doesn't depend on the other clause for its existence. Now the subordinate clause, a clause in a sentence that depends on some other clause for its completeness is called subordinate clause. Now in the example, I believe that he will come, the clause that he will come is subordinate to the main clause I believe. Note, the expression that he will come depends on the expression I believe for a complete meaning. This is subordinate to the principal clause I believe. The subordinate clause acts as a single part of speech. Here it acts as the object to the verb believe. The subordinate clause always starts with a linker. It is an integral part of the clause. In this sentence, it is that. Now look what a coordinate clause is. When more than one clauses of the same rank are joined together by a coordinating conjunction, they are called coordinate clauses to each other, as I have a car and it is beautiful. Note, in this sentence there are two clauses, I have a car and it is beautiful. None of these clauses depends on the other for completeness, so they are independent in nature. These clauses are joined by a coordinating conjunction, that is and, so these are coordinating clauses to each other. Now have a look at another example. I know that he is a good boy and he plays football. In this sentence there is a main clause, and in the subordinate part there are two clauses joined together by and. So we can say that here these two subordinate clauses are coordinate to each other. Thus we can say that a clause may be coordinate with a main clause or with a subordinate clause as well. Now let's see what are the types of subordinate clauses. Note, a main clause is just a main clause. It has no other functions, but a subordinate clause can be used in three ways. So there are three types of subordinate clauses. One is noun clause, the second is adjective clause, and the third one is adverbial clause. Let's see a noun clause. It does the work of a noun. Notable. Now remember, the nouns are used in 5 ways in a sentence as: number 1, subject to a verb. See the example. That he is ill is known to me. In this sentence, the subordinate clause that he is ill is the subject to the verb is known. The next point, object to a verb. See the example. I know when he will come. Here the subordinate clause when he will come is the object to the verb know. Point 3, object to a preposition. Note the example. It depends on how he behaves. Here the subordinate clause how he behaves is the object to the preposition on, and hence it's a noun. Next comes a complement to a verb. Note the example. This is what we expected. Here the subordinate clause what we expected is the complement to the intransitive verb is. We know all the be verbs are intransitives. The final point is in apposition to a noun or it. Note the examples. There is a rumor that he is dead. In example 2, it is true that he is dead. Note. In example 1, the clause that he is dead is identical in meaning to the noun rumor, so it is in apposition to the noun. And in example 2, the clause that he is dead is identical in meaning to the introductory it, so it is in apposition to it. Thus, in the above examples, the subordinate clauses are noun clauses by function. Now let's see what an adjective clause is. Note the example. I know the boy who did it. Note, in this example, the subordinate clause who did it describes the noun the boy, and so it does the work of an adjective. Thus, it is an adjective clause. Now take some more examples. The book that you gave me is lost. In this sentence, the clause that you gave me works as an adjective to the noun the book. In example B, I know the day when he will come. Here the subordinate clause when he will come describes the noun the day. In example C, only such boys are wanted as can speak fluently. In this example, the subordinate clause as can speak fluently describes the noun boys. In example D, I want such a pen as will write well. Here the subordinate clause as will write well describes the noun a pen. So these all are adjective clauses. Now let's see what are adverbial clauses. When a subordinate clause in a sentence works as an adverb, it is an adverbial clause. Note, there are 9 types of adverbs, so the adverbial clauses are also of 9 types. Note the examples. Adverbial clause of time. He came when I was there. In this expression, the subordinate clause when I was there modifies the verb came. The next point is adverbial clause of place. Please stay where you are. Here the subordinate clause where you are modifies the verb stay. Next comes adverbial clause of purpose. Take the example, we read that we may learn. Here the subordinate clause that we may learn modifies the verb read. Next comes adverbial clause of condition. Note the example, if I succeed, I shall help you. Here the subordinate clause if I succeed modifies the verb shall help. Now comes the adverbial clause of concession or contrast. Note the example, though he is poor, he is honest. Here the subordinate clause though he is poor modifies the verb is. Presents a contrast regarding to the state of the agent. Now comes the adverbial clause of comparison. She is taller than you. Note, here the main clause is she is taller and the subordinate clause is than you are. Now comes the adverbial clause of manner. Take the example, he talks as if he were the boss. Here the subordinate clause as if he were the boss modifies the verb talks. It expresses the very way in which he talks. Now comes the adverbial clause of reason. Note the example. He cannot come because he is ill. Here the subordinate clause because he is ill modifies the verb cannot come. It expresses the reason. And finally comes the adverbial clause of result. Note the example. He is so weak that he cannot walk. Note, here the subordinate clause that he cannot walk expresses the result of his state of being weak. Now work out with these exercises. Find out the subordinate clause in these sentences and state its function. Now let's see what are the types of sentences according to the construction. According to the construction, there are three types of sentences. One is simple, number two is complex, and number three is a compound sentence. Let's see what they are. A simple sentence. A simple sentence is one that has only one finite verb in it. Example, the earth moves around the sun. Example 2, I am reading a novel. Now, a complex sentence. A complex sentence is a sentence that has a main clause and one or more subordinate clauses depending on it. Example, I know what he said. We all know that God helps those who help themselves. See, in example 1, the main clause is I know, and there is one subordinate clause that is what he said. And in example 2, there is a main clause we all know, and there are two subordinate clauses depending on it, that God helps those who help themselves. Now, a compound sentence. A compound sentence is one which is made up of two or more principal or main clauses joined to a coordinating conjunction, as the moon was bright and we could see our way. Note, there are two clauses in this sentence. One, the moon was bright, and the second is we could see our way. These clauses are joined together by the coordinating conjunction and each clause in the sentence makes good sense and can stand by itself as a complete sentence. These are independent clauses, thus the sentence is a compound one. Now take a look at some special notes on compound sentences. See the examples. I went to the principal who spoke kindly to me. Example B, I went to Delhi where I stayed for 1 month. Note, example A has two finite verbs, went and spoke. That means there are two clauses in it. Note 2, the relative pronoun who is used here as a linker, and we know that the relative pronoun and the relative adverbs are subordinating conjunctions that make complex sentences. So we can easily conclude that example A is a complex sentence. But the fact is, the sentence is a compound one because there is no sense of dependence between the clauses here, and the relative pronoun who can easily be replaced by and he. This is called the continuative use of the relative pronouns or relative adverbs. Similar is the case with the example B. Here the relative adverb where is the linker and it can be replaced by and there. So a compound sentence may be a set of two or more complex sentences as, note the example, we know that he is a good student, but it is a fact that he is poor in maths. Note, it is a compound sentence. Here, two complex sentences are joined by the coordinating conjunction but. See, the first complex sentence is we know that he is a good student. In this one, the main clause is we know and the subordinate clause is that he is a good student. And the next complex sentence is it is a fact that he is poor in maths. In this one, the main clause is it is a fact and the subordinate clause is that he is poor in maths. And these two complex sentences are joined together by the coordinating conjunction but. So this is a good example of a compound sentence. So now we can easily conclude that clauses are coordinate when one is not dependent on the other, nor enters at all into its construction, as he is rich but he is unhappy. The clauses are subordinate but they depend on another clause or enter into its construction, as he said that he could do it. Here the main clause is he said and the subordinate is that he could do it. Note, now you can see that the conjunctions play a very important role in learning the structure of sentences. Have a short note here. There are two types of conjunctions mainly. Number 1, coordinating conjunction, and number 2, the subordinating conjunctions. Here I give you a list. See, the principal coordinating conjunctions are and, both and, as well as, not only but also, next, either or, neither nor, or, otherwise, but, yet, still, however, nevertheless, on the contrary, while, whereas, only, therefore, so, consequently, etc. And the principal subordinating conjunctions are till, until, after, before, when, while, since, as, because, that, so that, in order that, if, unless, whether, provided, though, however, whoever, whatever, etc. So dear, I hope you are learning well. Work hard at home and learn better. And for any question and suggestion, please feel free to text me.